I'm Pluto Burns, and welcome back to hell.
Hello? This place has a dark history.
Alas, poor YouTube, I knew thee well. Yeah, I know I don't post a lot anymore. I have a job, I have a polycule, it's a lot. And I didn't even finish the script for the questionable content video I wanted to do, but I did see the FNAF movie, which means I finally get to do something I've been meaning to do for a while, which is compare the Five Nights at Freddy's movie to the two movies that were clearly trying to beat it to the punch and kinda did. I don't know why this one took so long to get here. Just to be clear before we get started, I know Scott Cawthorn is a dick. Not like a majorly public dick. You have to be pretty good financial detective to notice that he's giving a lot of money to Republican candidates, but I didn't actually give him any money for this movie. I had a friend who already had a Peacock subscription, so fuck you, man. I'm also entirely unfamiliar with the video games. I know roughly what the plot is. I think I might have played a demo of them at one point. But I was too old to get into the streamers who made those huge, so like I just don't know or care about the deep lore of the series. In fact, I'm a little resistant to the deep lore because the deep lore is what completely overtook MatPat's Game Theory channel and made it unwatchable for me. We'll be back to him. But the other two movies we're going to talk about today are the Banana Splits movie and Willy's Wonderland. And Banana Splits movie, no one's really heard of this one. Willy's Wonderland had Nicolas Cage to get people's attention, but like, no one's heard of the Banana Splits movie, which is a shame, because I think it's the best of these three, which is why I'm gonna talk about it last. So let's start at the bottom of my preference list with Willy's Wonderland. Sorry, Nick!
We are trapped in here with him.
It's your birthday. Okay, so right off the bat, Nicolas Cage in this movie is delightful. I don't know if it was the original intention of the script for him to never speak. That seems unlikely. In fact, there's a couple scenes where it seems like his co-stars are having trouble without him giving them something to work off of. Maybe that's just because that's hard acting to do, or maybe he just refused to say any of his lines and they just had to take it. What are you gonna do, say no to Nick Cage? He's the only reason anyone's gonna watch this movie. And he is giving a delightful physical performance. This man who drives muscle cars and just kind of stares at people, but he has to take this job in order to fix his car where he monitors Willy's Wonderland at night and does like janitorial stuff. And he is really like efficient, he's like cleaning up, and every hour he takes a break. His alarm goes off and he goes into the break room and like plays pinball and slams sodas, and he looks like he's having a great time. And it's just this consistent affect that he will not stop taking his breaks. He will take those breaks no matter what is happening, including someone else being in mortal peril. Great joke. And there is precedent for this just being Nicolas Cage's weird decision on set. Like apparently in Ghost Rider, he was the one who decided that Ghost Rider should eat jelly beans out of a martini glass. Like no one told him to do that. He's just like, wouldn't it be funny if my guy did this? So that seems to be what's happening in this movie. It's a small production that Nicolas Cage completely took over, and no one was willing to tell him to stop because, one, he's giving a great performance, and two, he's the only name in this goddamn movie. But unfortunately, he's not the only person in this movie. And anytime another character shows up to insist that they are important to the plot, it falls to pieces. It's just so goddamn boring because, you know, he gets attacked by the puppets machines who are evil because of demonic possession, and he just beats the shit out of them. They're not even dangerous to him. So like the first time that happens, it's funny, it's exciting, and you're just waiting for him to beat up the rest of the monsters, but all the other characters are acting like he isn't just beating the shit out of these robots. the main evil bad guy is like, we have to sacrifice people, otherwise they'll break out. And it's like, dude, this guy has killed almost all of the robots. Just let him finish the job. And then there's this girl who's like, I gotta prove that there's evil robots. And she's like, no, stop trying to warn Nicolas Cage to leave. Nicolas Cage has got this. And unfortunately, that makes for an extremely unbalanced movie. About half of it is Nick Cage being really friggin' awesome, and the other half is insanely boring and pace-killing. So I can't give a movie my full recommendation based off of one performance, no matter how much I love that performance. Like, it's worth watching once to see Nick Cage do this, but I would never ever recommend someone own this movie or watch it more than once. Like, if a friend wanted to watch it with me, I would say, nah, watch that on your own time. So yeah, the one that came out in the middle with easily the biggest star of any of these movies, forgettable. Don't even bother. Let's move on to FNAF, I guess.
Ghost children possessing giant robots. Tell me how to stop them.
Oh boy, this movie stops Josh Hutcherson of Trapped in an Island fame. Oh, he looks weirdly like Pedro Pascal. Like, I wonder if that's intentional, because like, The Last of Us has been out for a little while, and it's like, hey, maybe if we're, or even not even just The Last of Us, just The Mandalorian. Like the whole vibe of like a Pedro Pascal looking person defending a small child. I may just be pulling that out of my ass, but it seems intentional. And I do want to say that this movie has like a couple good things going for it. Josh Hutcherson isn't really that great, but his sister Abby is giving a good performance. Definitely not like a mind-blowing kid performance, but good. A good kid performance. There's like a couple scenes that made me intentionally laugh. Not really a lot of scenes that made me laugh at the movie. That's kind of another major problem with this one. Another major problem with this movie is that it's PG-13. Like, I understand why it's PG-13. The target demographic for this movie is very young. You don't want to leave them out of the theaters. This movie has already made quite a bit of money. It's on track to make like a huge opening weekend. I don't think it's gonna maintain that. I think it's gonna have a pretty serious drop off after the first couple of weekends. And as like a big name movie that's got like this whole like fan base built in for it, there's a lot of decisions that I understand but don't agree with. Like, the robots aren't really the bad guys. There's like another bad guy who's making them do bad things. Spoilers. I don't know, is that in the games? I don't play them. There's a couple of YouTuber cameos. One of them is actually quite good. Like, he's a taxi driver and he's got like a really legitimately funny scene and line delivery. They kind of ruin it by giving him another scene right at the end. Didn't like that. Matt Pat shows up for an extended cameo that I did not appreciate. They have him do his catchphrase. Ugh. And there's just a lot of other stuff going on in this movie. Like, Josh Hutcherson's character is taking care of, first of all, his sister, not his daughter. It should just be his daughter, but it's his sister because he's got some trauma about his brother being kidnapped. Okay, again, if any of this is actually from the game lore, I don't care. It's a very long subplot with a lot of like time devoted to it. There's this whole dream thing where he keeps having dreams that are kind of lucid, and he's trying to like catch the criminal with like knowledge from his dreams. Honestly, not a terrible idea for a movie. It kind of sits awkwardly in this movie, because for the first 2 nights at Freddy's Pizza Palace, he literally just sleeps. Like, he takes a sleeping pill and just sleeps through the night. And it's like, what? Like, the whole point of this is that he's supposed to be watching the cameras and then creepy things happen on the cameras. They do that like a couple of times, but never when he's actually watching them. It always just happens to us, the audience. And there's a whole extended subplot with his aunt trying to get custody of his sister for the money she'll get from the state. That doesn't sound right to me, but that's a setup so that there are people that can be killed and we don't feel bad about it. It's a mess, and a major structural issue with this movie is the 5 nights part. He has to leave the Pizza Palace and come back. Imagine a haunted house movie where they leave the haunted house and come back. It really undercuts the scares because it's not a terrifying death trap. You can just walk out the door. You could have made that work. Like, I can imagine a way in which it works, but it doesn't work in this movie as it is. There are some occasional good stuff. Like, there's a scene where Abby meets the robots and they become like friends. And it's a little pandery, like, it's like, hey kids, you can become friends with your favorite characters, but like, I'm not above pandering to your target demographic. I love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie from 1990, and it's a kind of fun scene. But there isn't any gore. The robots do not look good. Like, if they're just standing there, they can look pretty creepy, but they move a lot. And they're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to like show up unexpectedly in places, and they don't do that a lot. You see them moving. There's a pretty spooky scene where the final villain comes in, but the lighting, it stands out to me because when the final villain shows up, the lighting is really dark and terrifying, and for most of the rest of the movie, it's just a little too bright. Like, they're using darker colors like dark greens and dark blues, but they're not dark enough. There's a lot of yellow in this movie. And I did not enjoy my time with it. I have the distinct impression that fans of the lore are gonna get a lot out of this. Kids the right age are gonna get a lot out of this, but I think it's gonna be one of those movies you come back to as an adult and you're like, that wasn't actually that good. I was just a kid with bad taste. I have those movies too. So yeah, that was Five Nights at Freddy's, a weird 90s, but also kind of 80s time capsule. It's a mess. I'd much rather everyone watch the Banana Splits movie. So longtime viewers may remember that about 4 years ago, I did an On the Couch video of the Banana Splits movie with Steven. I don't want you all going back and watching it because I am not aware of the fact that I'm trans at the time, but I'm also wearing thigh-high socks. The egg was paper thin. So, the Banana Splits, for those who don't know, is like a 60s, 70s parody of a variety show called the Bananas, maybe? The Monkeys, that's what it was. I couldn't tell you about that show that they're parodying, or even really much about the Banana Splits, the show as it actually existed. I think it was like an introduction to other Hanna-Barbera properties. Like, they'd show 3 Hanna-Barbera cartoons with some Banana Split mascot silliness in between. This is just my assumption. I never actually watched it. It was on Boomerang, and I would see it and be like, I should watch that sometime, but it was always at like 12 o'clock at night, and I wasn't staying up that late for something just to try it. But there's 4 mascots: Drooper, Fleagle, Bingo, and Snorky, Snort. The elephant. And the premise of the movie is that rather than ending when it did, the show stayed on and stayed popular. Not like massively popular, but popular enough to have fans, make money, and to... Oh, one of the characters is like a YouTuber who like makes content about the history of the Banana Splits. That is a really clever character to put into your movie, because it's something that would absolutely exist for basically any niche property, and it gives you an excuse to have some exposition. So a family of the mother, the new father, Harley, the son of the new father, and Austin, the son of the previous father, or maybe they're both the son of the same father who's dead now. Point is, it's a mix-up family, and Austin's like 19 and Harley's like 8. And the Banana Splits is his favorite show, and it's his birthday, so they're going to a live taping of the Banana Splits. Yay! With one extra person, Zoe, the best character in the movie. She's just some girl from his elementary school that he like knows but isn't really friends with, but his one actual friend who also likes the banana splits is sick. So his mom is like, let's ask Zoe's mom if she wants to come. And Zoe is goddamn the best actor in this freaking movie. She's like 10 and her deliveries are so goddamn funny and on point. She's like, I don't want to go to the banana splits. He's a weirdo. And her mom is like, you're going. They were nice enough to ask you. So Zoe is somewhat unwillingly along for this ride. So they get there and we meet the rest of the people who are going to be in the movie with speaking roles to get killed off. And there's also Paige the Page, who, you know, she's just the person there who guides the audience around. They sit through the show. Now, the banana splits in this universe are not people in suits. They're robots inside of suits. And Carl has recently given them an update. Now, it's clear that Carl is kind of an eccentric guy, but he's not supposed to be evil. He's not supposed to be someone who intentionally made the banana splits go crazy. The banana splits' most recent update to their software wasn't perfect, and they've gotten a little hung up on the phrase, the show must go on. Which doesn't go well when the latest executive tries to shut down the show because he just thinks it's lame. Like, it doesn't matter if it's making money, he thinks it's lame and he wants to do cooler stuff. So the banana splits, after finishing the main show, go on a murder spree. This movie is rated R. Oh my god, the kills are so good. A guy gets like hacked in half by like a magic saw, you know, like for the pull someone apart, cut him in half bit, but he actually cut them in half and like organs fall out. Guy gets his face set on fire and partially melted. That doesn't kill him. What kills him eventually is a big ol' hammer to the face. And it's just, the movie immediately, like after introducing the characters, gets you to the banana split show and the plot just starts happening. FNAF, the pacing is all over the place. It feels like we're going there and coming back and learning stuff and not learning stuff at like just random intervals. Whereas the banana splits is actually paced out properly. Now it is dumb and goofy. There's a lot of characters floating around and a bunch of them are just to get murdered off, but man, I do kind of care about some of them. Like the awful streamer guy and his like Instagram famous girlfriend. Like, they're supposed to be kinda like dumb and cringe, but like they're just kind of small time annoyances and they seem to really genuinely love each other. So like my empathy actually kicks in when they die, because like, sure, I don't like them, but I don't dislike them enough to wish them dead. And oh goodness, the banana splits don't kill any children in this movie because they must have children for their audience. But that doesn't mean they haven't traumatized the shit out of a bunch of children by the end of this. Harley hangs out with Snorky and convinces him to be good again, so we get like a robot on robot fight scene at the end. The mother gets her like cardigan ripped off at one point and is just in like a badass red tank top, so she's like action mom now. It's not subtle, but it's endearingly silly. So I can't say that the Banana Splits is like a great movie, but it is objectively good at what it's trying to do. It knows what it's trying to be, a gory slasher movie with robots and like a spooky backstage set, and it does it. It does it with skill. FNAF seems really confused about what it's trying to be, and Willy's Wonderland clearly had two competing visions. So yes, obviously my order is this. I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. Banana Splits is to rent for like $3 on YouTube. Give it a shot. You might be surprised by how much you enjoy it. If you're a FNAF fan, maybe you'll get more out of it than I did, but I found it very boring. And Willy's Wonderland is worth watching once. Thank you all for your patience. I know I just don't post often enough, but I'm doing my best here. I mean, look how pretty my hair is, right? I must be doing well. And I don't know when you'll next see me. I am working on the next questionable content video, but thank you all so much for sticking with me and have a delightfully spooky Halloween. Mwah!